with that, let's get started. If you go to the click here roles and then you see the little like scales on the bottom, like just go ahead and click those scales and you see the number tick up. And then if you're in either of the other ones as well, go ahead and click on the one that corresponds with that. And that'll help with notifications. That'll yeah, and that yep. Okay, everyone good with that? All right, now we can move on. It looks like there's this the stream is acting out for some people. Um, how about this? Avery, you can if it's working, then oh, okay. Well, here, let me try streaming and see if it works better. Um, hold on one second. Go ahead and join my stream and see if that works any better. Can I get some yes nos, some confirmations? Okay, cool. And if it's not loading for you right now, it might just be being slow because of Discord servers, so just like let it be for a little bit. Yeah. Okay. And those of you that are returning might notice this question is quite familiar, and we have discussed this earlier where like the connection between potential careers and your existing interest and speech are fairly clear, right? But when we're thinking about debate, it might be a little more difficult to see that connection because you tend to view debate as um, some of you may tend to view debate as just like arguing, but the fundamental difference is that there is a in debate there's a recognition of opposition. There's an active recognition of there is someone that is actively opposing your stance on something. And how to deal with that and how to overcome that is something that you can consider in any career as well. So let's see. Raquel says be a lawyer. That I mean, I think that's probably the best, the most connected career to debate, where you get yes, you do get comfortable with posing good arguments. You get comfortable with dealing with an opposing party's argument as well, and thinking through those arguments and thinking through the evidence that's presented for you. Russian roulette, what? Um. Oh, I think someone in here might have been playing it. The Discord is weird when it shows that stuff. Doctor. Speaking in meetings, and again, that's exactly what I'm saying, right? If you say something, and it's not just about okay being able to say that thing. It's about well, what if someone disagrees with you? What if someone speaks out against what you just said? How are you going to deal with that? Yeah, I think, and if you want to go into law, it's like a perfect connection, but it can also connect to a bunch of other things. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Mhm. Yeah, sharing I. Yeah, and I think in science, it's like people when they think of science, they don't realize that that might exist. Like the idea of you can't just like put stuff out there. You have to be prepared for someone to perhaps oppose that idea, or at least force you to justify that more than you thought you would have to. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the defense part is what's I think is what distinguishes debate from speech, right? When you do give a speech, there really isn't anyone quote unquote attacking you per se. So the prospect of defense is not as important, whereas in debate the prospect of defense is incredibly important. Saying some good answers. I'm a fan. Mhm. Yeah, exactly. So it's just the idea here is even if you're not necessarily interested in debate by itself, maybe you don't necessarily want to pursue competitive debate in high school or something like that, you can still derive a lot of benefit from the skills that you pick up in debate. And it's just a really nice thing to be able to do. Yes, especially and when you have a jury instead of a judge in law, yeah, for sure. And understanding how you're going to persuade those people beyond you can't lock yourself in a box like, oh, I'm persuading this one person about this one thing, and this is how I'm gonna go about doing it. If there's a lot of people, then you may have to change up your methods a little bit, or change up your angle a little bit. Yep. All right, some great answers. I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So the this workshop is designed for with the idea that you guys don't necessarily have any competitive debate experience. And with that in mind, since this series is 4 workshops, we want you guys to have a very clear, solid vision that you can work towards throughout the entire month. So our goal is that by the end of this workshop series, you're going to be able to develop a solid structured argument and have a complete, fully formatted Lincoln Douglas debate. And what that entails, we're going to go more into in the future. And to some of you, that might sound really easy. You're like, oh, we just need to have one debate. Oh. And some of you, that might sound hard because you're like, oh my God, I have no idea what a Lincoln Douglas debate is. I've never heard of that. I don't know what's going on. And I want to say that it's neither that easy or that hard as it sounds. So competitive debates, for those of you that aren't familiar, follow a very particular structure, and it's not just straight out arguing like some of you might imagine, or and it's not a court case setup either. It's kind of its own distinct thing that for some of you it may feel strange or not very intuitive, so it can be kind of intimidating at first. And that's why we're going to work through it step by step to make sure you guys develop a really solid foundation as we work up to it. And that final debate that we're having at workshop 4 that you guys can see is not going to be the only debate that we have in this workshop, obviously. Like, it's in a debate workshop, we're going to have multiple debates. But that final debate is going to work in all of that formatting and that kind of specialized knowledge that we're going to be developing with you guys over the course of these 4 workshops so that you can be successful in that format. And so this workshop is just kind of an introduction to the basic concepts behind debate. But then next workshop, we're going to go more into LD structure in particular, some of the jargon that you might need to know. And then workshop 3, we're going to actually develop y'all's cases for the final debate. And in that way, we don't want you guys to have to do any work outside of this workshop. That's why this isn't a class, right? This is just a workshop, and that's why we're going to be like just working and fine tuning your skills while you're here. So that's why we're going to go through this step by step so that everyone's always on the same page and that you can steadily, piece by piece, work up to that final goal and that we're all achieving that final goal. Yeah, and in this workshop, we're going to try to cater both to those of you that are interested in debate competitively and those of you that may not be as interested in a competitive standpoint. But typically in a competition, different judges may have different criteria for how they decide the winners because they might value different parts or different components of the debate different amounts from judge to judge. So that is something that you may need to look out for. But practically speaking, it comes down to how well your argument is structured and presented. So for the rest of this workshop, we're just going to be doing a sort of 4 corners activity that involves that will not necessarily be a structured debate format per se yet, but we will be practicing you guys being able to present your opinion on something and being able to back up that opinion, not just saying, oh, this is what I think, but this piece of evidence is what backs me up, or this line of reasoning is what backs me up. So we're going to um, go to the debate polls channel, if you guys see that right above the discussion text, and I'm going to be sending polls in that chat, and you guys are going to pick between strongly agree, somewhat disagree, or strongly disagree, and um, volunteers will be able to share their reasoning. So those of you that feel pretty strongly about the issue, I would encourage you to come out and just start presenting your reasoning, preferably by like speaking out and not just typing it. And we're gonna try to have at least two people from each side, unless there is a situation where obviously there's not two people from a particular side. But yeah, make sure you're in the debate polls chat. And actually, since I'm streaming, can someone else send the polls? Hold on. If you just do like, yeah, there's the syntax. Yeah, the syntax. Uh, I don't want to like stop streaming. I guess I could stop streaming actually. You guys don't need to see this. So hold on, I'm gonna stop streaming. Wait, you guys can't access it? That's... Oh, um, yeah, okay, the permissions are probably just broken. It's fine, I can send it right now. So, I got it. Okay, there's our first question. Can the assassination of dictators be justified? And just go ahead and click on the little like letter that corresponds with your personal thoughts. And then once everyone has locked in an answer, and I would like everyone to lock in an answer, even if you feel like you're not an expert on the topic or anything like that, that's fine. Just go ahead and lock in an answer. Um, and then once we have that, I will go ahead and ask someone to share their reasoning. We have a lot of B's. And don't let other people's, by the way, guys, do not let other people's opinions sway your opinion. Don't like see a bunch of people picking B and then be like, oh, well now I have to pick B because um that's what everyone else thinks and that they must be right. Um, because when you're in a debate, you're often not only are you going to have to maybe argue for an unpopular opinion, but you may have to argue for one that you don't even agree with yourself. And you guys should be prepared for that. So don't just pick what other people are picking. Um, yes. Yes. Yeah. I think pretty much everyone's responded. So go ahead and I want someone from, it looks like no one picked strongly agree. So let's go ahead and for somewhat agree. And if any of you want to share your reasoning behind picking that option, go ahead and unmute and share your reasoning. We have a very strong proponent of D as well. We will get to you in a moment. Okay. If none of you want to share, I'm going to have to just like pick someone because honestly, I would like for all of you to be able to present your stance on that. So let's see. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and you guys can actually see that that answer has that was a really good answer, by the way. And some of you seem to have changed your stance on that issue after Toline's presentation. So yeah, so and this is like this is not a debate as an official debate format yet. We'll get to that next workshop. For now, this is more of an open discussion. So I'm glad that you guys are kind of just sharing your opinions. I It's fine if you guys want to type, but I would prefer for you guys to speak because next workshop you guys are definitely going to have to speak like into your microphones. Um, but for now it's fine if you want to type. Let's see. Pick B. If we didn't punish them to death, that would show others that we are not harsh to corrupt leaders, so killing them would have more impact than a trash cleanup. Let's see. Dictators, people in there. Still beneficial to the greater good. So yeah, we have a lot of different answers here, and I like how you guys are presenting these. I would say something to think about, right, is that there there be a situation in which there is no there in which there is no one in a position to enact an alternative method of punishment other than assassination. I'm not saying that is the case. I'm saying could there be? And it's something just on the purpose of consideration. And it can be a little bit difficult to think about right now because most of you probably don't have much background knowledge on this. And that also ties into another concept we're going to talk about later, which is how important it is to develop a case by doing a little bit of research beforehand. And you guys will see that the more background knowledge you have on a topic, the easier it gets to argue not only for at all, but argue for a longer period of time with more substance um, on its particular topic. hmm Then defense would be a better option. Best way to handle bad situations, get out of that situation. Yeah, and I can definitely see where that, and I think it's still a crime and shouldn't be excused. So I like you guys are having, and obviously it's completely okay to, because I think when we're like in doing like school discussions, right? A lot of you just don't want to say stuff because like they're you kind of feel like weird if you end up disagreeing with other people. But I want you guys to feel totally comfortable with disagreeing or agreeing with each other in this case because, again, we're doing debate where fundamentally you will have to disagree with your opponent. But I really like the answers that you guys are giving. Depends on the situation. Mhm. Yeah, and then Cindy is presenting an alternative viewpoint, which is saying there may not. What if there isn't another option? And if that dictator happens to control everything, it'd be difficult. Yeah, and I also do like where Tolina's coming from here, right? Because then you also have to start thinking of the wording of the question, right? The word justification. So you can say maybe the result could be beneficial in the end, right? But that does that the word justification there, does that justify that? And another thing to consider, right? So you guys can see as we discuss this more and more, there are more dimensions or more layers coming out surrounding the question. And that's another thing that's huge in LD debate is when you look at a resolution, it may seem simple at first, but as you break it down and start defining the words in the resolution, um, you can see, oh, maybe this is more complex than I thought it was. Should be assassinate is kind of like war, avoid as much as possible when it's necessary. So, um, my brain just died. Yeah, yes. Like I was gonna say, oh yeah, yeah. It's like that's a good analogy. That's what I meant to say. Mhm. Yeah, and to go and expand that a little bit more for those of you that are interested, what Talina is doing here is really good. in that sense, because when you go into a debate, that value that you're centering around is kind of like your angle in a sense, where I'm the reason that I'm arguing this is because this is the most important to me. And in the Talene's case, that would be the value of a human life. This is the value of human life here is more important to me, or more important to Talene than the than the means, or like than the end result of the political climate of that country, or whatever that we're talking about, you know? And some of you may disagree with that. Some of you may be like, okay, well, I value that, that dictator, that by any means that dictator is no longer in power, so that way the country can, or that sovereignty can move on from that state of oppression, right? So you can see how different values can allow both sides to appear justified in a situation, even though that may seem a little counterintuitive at first, because some of you might be like, oh, well, there has to be a right answer in this. Not necessarily. The right answer depends on how you approach it. Ah, the trolley problem. Trolley problem's fun. Mhm. Mm. Yeah. And this is great because some of you are also even naturally falling into that kind of debate mode of thinking. I'm going to go ahead. I think we have. I don't want to sit too long on a single topic, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next topic unless anyone else has any final closing remarks on that, or we can leave it there because, again, this isn't a complete debate, so I don't want to like force you guys into the topic. Next one, then go ahead, but go back to polls as I um put in the next topic. I think, yeah, and I think that one has a, actually, can we do the one after that? Because I think that it's pretty similar. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the next one. Um, yeah. Um, strongly disagree. I'm sorry, I type slow. Okay. Okay, so for our next question, is standardized testing necessary? And I think some of you might have stronger opinions on this, since as school students, we have a quite a bit of an experience with standardized testing. I see some strongly disagrees out of the gate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Or even if it's not a moral standpoint, but at least some kind of like a more what's the word? Yeah, I can't find words today. All right. And if any of you have, oh, I see people typing. Yeah, go ahead. Mm. So like the gap in accessibility based on uh maybe your financial situation. It depends if it's going to benefit us a lot. Can you expand on that? And another thing is that it's important, right? When you give a statement, um, let's like that's kind of like your main point, like your bullet point, right? But then underneath that, you just gotta start backing that up with a more developed piece of evidence or line of reasoning. It's wrong to judge what level a person at by just one test. Yeah, and I would definitely agree with that, right? Where, mhm, mhm, yeah, and in that case, to kind of bring back that idea of value, right? In that case, you're if you're kind of approaching it from the angle of valuing or prioritizing, let's say, um, equal opportunity, right? And if you say, well, the way standardized tests are right now is not, they're not constructed in a way that allows for equal opportunity, then that can be a problematic situation. Let's see, efficacy, but it's not the best way for people's intelligence to be measured, memory based. And then Cindy is approaching it from more of an angle of what are the tests measuring, and should that be what they are measuring, and which I really like. Let's see. Yeah, and then there's also the other side of the coin, which is right, which is yes, the way they are at the moment is problematic in terms of their impact and their focus. Um, the idea of observing your own progress or measuring your own progress in actually learning a particular subject is still important, and can that be measured with using standardized testing as a positive tool instead of a negative one? So recognizing the limitations as, oh, sorry. Mhm. Mhm. Standardized testing. Yeah, and I'd like for let's see. I think we had three people on the agree half of things. I would like to hear more from them as well, because I think we're a little. I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to express both sides of the coin or the argument. Words. Mhm. Yeah. And then okay. And Iris saying, I understand, but saying every single individual's past performances instead of issuing a fair and equal test can be difficult. So Iris coming at it from a point of logistically speaking, there it's difficult. It, saying that okay, operating on the assumption that we need a way to gauge a student's progress and perform an academic performance and how that can be accomplished in a practical sense, but at the same time, um, they're the current state. It seems like most of you are thinking that while it can be helpful if it is able to accomplish that purpose, it seems that a lot of you think that the way they are right now, which I would probably agree with, um, that they're not equipped to do that at the moment because they operate on too many what's the word, unequal unequal oh my god, I cannot think of words today. That they don't necessarily provide equal opportunity, so that they're not necessarily fair, and that they're not accomplishing that goal. I think is kind of the most or prevalent conclusion that I've been hearing. But there are a lot of good answers on this one. Hmm. And another thing with like LD is that you guys, I mean, and this is natural because we all live in the US, is that you guys are, it's pretty clear that a lot of you guys are thinking like within the boundaries of the US specifically, so with like SATs or the tests you've experienced personally. And um, that I'm not saying that's good or bad, but what I am saying is that usually in a real LD resolution, it'll be specific about if it may or may be specific about that kind of thing. So that you'll see a lot of LD resolutions that say in the US specifically. And that way you know for sure that this is occurring within the boundary of the US. But since this prompt that we gave you guys, because it's not a real LD prompt, it's just like a broader question, because this one didn't say in the US, you could have done what Avery said and looked at stuff that's happening in other parts of the world. Which it what? No, 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 you go ahead. Yeah, and I think you guys can see here that in this like kind of it's a simple discussion without a lot of structure or formatting that we're having here, but you can see how those debate skills and ideas are naturally working their way in, and you can see how those if you take the time to target and develop those debate skills, it's going to make you even better at not only debate itself, but these more kinds of these looser discussions, if that makes sense. I think we're coming up on the 45-minute mark here, so um yeah, go ahead and we'll take like final, I guess, closing statements, and then go ahead and I think wrap up our first workshop. Yeah, I see Iris is still there. Oh, sorry. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Okay, and then we'll take any more statements. I see Iris is still typing, so I wanna let her get her last statement out before we wrap things up. Um. Oh, go ahead. Mm. Yeah, I see. Okay. The benchmarks are harder than the star. I think that's probably true, honestly. The star is. Well. Mhm. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put a pin on that discussion, but I really like all the ideas that you guys presented, and I think you guys are already showing a lot of those fundamental debate skills and ideas, which is really exciting. One last thing before we end off completely, go ahead and fill out that Google form. So, that Google form has some different resolution or topic options for um our final LD debate that we'll have in the fourth workshop. And we're gonna go ahead and decide that now, or I guess next workshop, at the beginning of next workshop. We're gonna go ahead and decide that topic. That way you guys can start thinking about it, all the concepts that we're learning over the next couple weeks in the context of that topic, and even maybe like some quick Google searches to find some evidence. I don't know. Just keep in mind when you're choosing, and go ahead and do it now so you don't forget later. Keep in mind when you're choosing, we are going to randomly assign you, because this is how it works in debate, is we're going to randomly assign you to one side or the other. So when you pick one, be prepared to argue for the side that you may not agree with. But that's all I'm going to say on that. But you could guys, if you don't like any of the ones, or if you have just a really strong suggestion for a resolution of your own, you can also leave that there. And we will probably also take that one into consideration. But make sure you guys all fill out that form. Other than that, uh, that's pretty much the end of our first debate workshop, and we will see you guys all uh 1 week from now, same time. So that's the 21st at 2 p.m. Yes, thank you guys. Sure. Compulsory immunization is like you have to get a vaccine, basically.